And sounds like you have a great plan for an individual young man as he comes into your program and develops into that 18-year-old young man heading out to the world. So let's take some time. You don't have any shortage of big name players here. Let's take some time to talk about some of your big name players here and tell us as much as you want to tell us about how you plan to use them here taking over at Franklin High School.
Yeah, I mean, obviously our headliner is Justin Morales,
Huge.
and we knew about him even when I was coaching here. I coached his older brother Jordan, who was a running back for us and a great track athlete, and he's doing his thing in college. Um, one of the things that I've told all the offensive line coaches that come through here and the recruiters is I would put him up against anybody in the country when it comes to athleticism on the front five. He's not 6'6", he's right around that 6'4", 6'5", but he looks like a power forward. But his tenacity, his footwork, and all the extra work, I think that's the thing is he's got a lot of God-given gifts, but he doesn't rely on those. And I think since a young age, his scope and his vision was much, much more greater than being El Paso good. And so the work that he does before practice, the work that he's going to do this afternoon after he just went through a full workout, the work that he does on the weekends. I mean, he's just constantly working on his craft. And so, that's why he is who he is. But in all my 20 years of coaching and the little that I played, he's definitely the most athletic offensive lineman I've seen. And he's only going to get better. So I think Kansas State has got a diamond for sure. And it'll be fun to see what he really grows into. And he's a kid that I think will be playing on Sundays one day.
Yeah, definitely a great kid. Comes from a great family as well.
Great
Like
family.
you talked about, his brother, mom, and dad are great people as well. And like you said, he's not just relying on natural God-given talent. He's a worker. He coached him when he was 12.
Yeah.
And it was like that when he was 12. He only met the age cutoff by, I believe, one day. So he basically played a year up. And was mauling kids a year older than him, sometimes 2 years older than him. So it's been like that since he was a young kid. So, but again, hard worker, comes from a great family, and you're right, Kansas State does have a great one.
And I think the last thing about him is, usually those big guys that play O-line and are really great, they're not very vocal. He's definitely got command of our locker room. He's definitely vocal, and he leads by example. And he does a great job with the young guys. And then, you go to Ernie Powers, and kind of that Powers last name here at Franklin is...
Heard it a few, 3, 4, 5, seems like 19 times.
Yeah, I wish they had a few more coming up. But, Ernie's, he's just like all of them. And you talk about parents that have really raised their kids the right way and hard workers and dedicated and committed to team. From David, who was a linebacker here when I got here, to Steven, who was our running back. And then I left when the other one was here, but I saw him in junior high, and he was so dynamic and good. And then, of course, Ernie. But, you look at guys that just come every day with that hard work mentality. We don't have, it's the West Side. And even when I wasn't on the West Side, I kind of felt like, maybe they're entitled. But I could tell you that, I have never, at Franklin High School, I've never seen entitlement. Especially not from the good players. They come with a blue-collar mentality every day. They bust their butt. Effort and accountability is not something you have to worry about with these guys. And Ernie's just like David and Steven. He's going to come in. He's going to do his job. You can't keep them off the field. They take care of themselves. They're obviously all put together very well. I think he's just as good as any running back that's ever came through El Paso. He's fast, he's explosive, he's strong. We're hoping this year to showcase his ability to catch the ball a lot more, especially lining up at slot and working him out of the backfield. But he can do it all. And so, he's very big. And then our right tackle, Eric, he just got an offer from UTEP, and he's walking around here at 6'6". Something came out in Dave Campbell's that we got one of the top 10 lines in the state. And, so for us, that just kind of makes that target on our back a lot bigger. But like I tell these guys, do you want to be slept on, or, do you want to be acknowledged for what you've done? So we haven't played a snap of football yet. So there's a lot they got to prove. And we can't go around losing to, Del Valle and Lubbock, Monterey, and then getting embarrassed in the first round if we're walk around with that moniker that we're one of the top lines in the state. So we got a lot to prove, and so far they met the challenge. Uh, but again, that's all right now. It just depends when we kick off. And then I kind of look at our quarterback position. We got 3 guys fighting for the spot. We got the freshman coming in who honestly, as a freshman, he's built, ready to, like, he could play varsity snaps. His upside is huge. And so the fact that I'm getting here so late, I don't really know these guys very well. So it's a clean slate for me, and they're all competing for the spot. The one thing that I am proud about with those quarterbacks is they're kind of the lunch pail hard hat guys. They're coming into work every day. They're staying for meetings. We started quarterback school this week. They're picking it up. They're rooting for each other. That quarterback room's really good. I mean, they know at the end it's going to come down to one guy, but they all push each other. They support each other. And so, we'll name a starter hopefully after the scrimmage. I can't see us naming one right before. But when you look at a group on the offensive side that's really going above and beyond to make their team better, it's those guys. And then you flip over to the defensive side, and you got JB and Stoney, Dante at defensive end, who's probably 6'5" and athletic, and he'll line up at some tight end for us. But you look at our interior box on defense, they look really strong. They look big. They're impressive. I mean, JB, he looks like a college linebacker right now. So impressed with him on how he comes downhill and his tenacity. And then, you got Stone out there that's flying around, kind of holds the edge down for us. And so those guys are going to have to play big because our secondary is relatively young. You look at three of the 4 guys right now that are probably starting, haven't had a lot of varsity snaps. So we're going to try to keep things in front of us, and we've got to play up front with the box.
Hey, with the secondary, things don't get better with time. So
yeah. So I mean, we got some work to do back there for sure. And believe it or not, Franklin's one of those places where the kickers are here every day for off season. And so, our kickers are lifting, they're working on their craft. And
hey, there's 3 phases of the game, and people forget that in high school a little bit,
Oh, yeah.
There's offense, defense, and special teams. So hey.
So that'll be big, and I've always got a kick out of that at Franklin is, it's the one place I've been where kickers are here and they're part of the off season, and they're out there running, they're lifting, and then they go and work on their craft. And, nobody even really kind of makes the kicker jokes around here because they're just so ingrained into our team. But, the thing that you look forward to as a coach is who's going to be the surprises. And right now, we've got some young guys out there at wide receiver who are showing some sparks. We got some safeties that are starting to flash. And, I think once it all comes together, of course, kids are out on vacation and going to camps and trying to showcase and compete and hopefully get a look. But I think once it all comes together, that's going to be the exciting part. But I think the sign of every good team is how many of those surprises do you have that come up to play big for you? And so the kids are working hard. Our backup running backs right now are working hard, and, they're going to have to spell Ernie some. So it's an exciting time at Franklin, and I think the kids are excited. The community seems really excited, and we're just looking forward to August when it gets here.
Outstanding. Sounds like you got it all planned. Hey, Coach, the way we like to finish these things, just like a little personal question. Hey, tell us what game day looks like for you. What does it look like from the time you wake up in the morning, to the time that that final whistle blows at the end of the night?
Right. So I'm pretty much a schedule guy. So, I mean, I get up at about 3:34 every morning, and I'll go work out with my best friend, have breakfast, come on in and try to relax as much as possible. Usually by 11 o'clock, I'm kind of done. I kind of just like time to myself. And then our team will get here and we'll have a pregame lift. One of the things that I changed over the years is we'll have a pregame practice during our athletic period, kind of just sharpen up, make sure everything, kind of just a, checks and balances type deal. And then they get their team meal. Coaches will meet. And then it gets into the pregame, and that's where we bring in our middle school coaches, and they're part of our pregame, and they're on the field. I don't send those guys out to scout. I want them here. I want them to see and be a part of our sideline, wearing what we wear, be engaged in our game, coach kids that they helped get to this program. And then we do the same when it's time for them, for the middle schools to play. And so changing that community atmosphere, making sure we're both vertically and horizontally aligned is big on game day. And then for me, right before I go out, the last song I listened to is "The Gambler" by Kenny Rogers, and that's just kind of my thing. And
Gotta know when to hold them.
that's right.
Know when to fold them.
And I still haven't learned when to hold them. I go for it a lot, but that's it. And then we go out there and play. By that time, what do they say? All the hay's in the barn, and go out there and let these kids do their thing. And our job as coaches is to make those adjustments. And I'm really proud of the staff we've been able to put together. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, us hiring Ariel Famaligi, over, who was the former head coach at Montwood.
A lot of experience all across 915.
Yeah,
great coach.
Great coach. And so how he's not a head coach again right now, I don't know, but I think he will be soon. But we are really lucky to get him. And then bringing over Marcus Washington, who was the defensive coordinator at Pebble Hills, and then he went out to Kyle with my brother. But they made a family decision to move back, so he kind of fell in our lap as a defensive coordinator. And so I think just at the coordinator spots, we've gotten a lot stronger with a lot of great winning experience. I think that's the key, is winning, proven winning experience. And they're just great people and great with kids. And so, with the other additions and moving guys around within the staff, I think we have one of the better staffs, in El Paso. And the product that we put out there on the field will prove that or disprove that. But, I think your coaching resume is really what you put on tape every week. And so
only as good as your last transmission, your last press conference is only as good as you are.
That's right. And so as great as we feel about the staff right now and our kids, we still got to go out there and produce. And so that's kind of how game day looks for us. And then we move on to the next one.
So tell me what it's like after a big win, because losers don't deserve meals after losses. So what's it like after the big win? What are you doing? Where are you going? What's it like after the big win?
Well, I don't really go anywhere. I mean, I learned a long time ago that whether you win or lose, once you walk off that field, it's on to the next one. And so for me, it's appreciate the win, but you start looking at injury reports, you start breaking down that film, and then you wake up Saturday morning and it's on to the next one. Win or lose, you just don't hang on to it. You got to move on. And I think that, the parity in El Paso is so tight, especially in 6A. I mean,
yeah.
You look at, Coronado's getting better. I think Coach Pry's done a great job over there and his staff. And we've lost some kids over there over the last couple of years. And so when you talk about culture and environment, we have to change the culture here to invite kids back in and families. Yeah. Pebble Hills with Coach Warner over there, who's of course a Franklin disciple. He's got that thing going, and Julio Lopez has been, a constant year in and year out in Eastwood, and Eastwood being a powerhouse. And then Eastlake, Coach Rodriguez over there picked up right where Coach Calderon left off. And you look at their staff and guys that have been there, part of that program, guys that played for them when they were at Riverside. So, one of the hardest things to always do is, how much consistency do you have on your staff? And you look at the teams that are consistently winning and maintaining it up here, like over at Canutillo, at Eastlake, Del Valle. Those staffs have been together for a long time. And that says a lot about that program, that community, those coaches. You always want your coaches to be able to go on and be better, but having that consistency and continuity there, I think, is huge. And so you look at 6A, Coach Rangel at Montwood, he's going to get that thing turned around. And so you have no weeks off. You have no weeks off, and then you get into round one of the playoffs, and it gets even bigger. And so I don't think you can afford to pat yourself on the back or feel sorry for yourself much.
Got to get straight into using your time wisely before next Friday. It comes quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just kind of been my personality and what I've grown into over the years. And, I like the players to celebrate. I like the coaches to celebrate. I kind of just move on to the next one.
Hey, like Coach said, you do all that hard work. That's what you lift all those weights for. You got to celebrate after you do something big.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we let them enjoy it. But for me, as the head coach, I don't, once I come off that field, it's on to the next one. I just have never been the type to get too high or get too low. I think that's when you set yourself up for trap games and disappointment. And so the players, the assistants, they put in a lot of work, especially the players. Uh, but somebody's got to be thinking ahead. And so that's my job as the head coach, is to keep us on track, keep thinking ahead. Never get too high, never get too low, because like you said, you're only as good as your last game. Exactly. And those losses, 7 days before you get to play again, that's a long time to have that taste in your mouth. And so not a taste I like very much. So, we get moving, or I get moving on to the next one. And then when the coaches come in, they're ready to go. So, I think balance is important in this profession. So I do try to make sure that I maintain balance within the staff, and you're not taking a lot of time away from their family. I mean, their families are sacrificing.
Absolutely.
But I think balance is important. But I do got to keep my finger on the pulse of the team and make those tough decisions and keep us focused on what we're doing.
Outstanding. Well, I tell you what, Coach, it sounds like Franklin has a great one over here.
Sir.
I appreciate you giving us your time. Good luck. I'll be catching some of your games this year, Coach.
All right, come on through.
Boom.